I had to set a boundary with my dad about force feeding my son. Ever since my son has started solids, my dad has forcefully shoved food into my baby's mouth. From the first time I saw him do this, I told him to please stop. I told him he can bring the food up to my son's mouth and wait to see if he wants it, or set it in front of him to have my baby feed himself. This past weekend I had enough. It was my son's first birthday party and we had everyone at our house to celebrate. My son had an accident. He tripped and fell, hitting his upper lip on our concrete step leading to our backyard and busted his lip open. Thankfully, no medical intervention was needed. We were able to get his pain and bleeding under control and proceed with the party. We opened presents, then sang happy birthday. I sat next to my son to offer him his cupcake. He turned his head away from me and pushed it away. This is a clear sign he is saying no. My dad was sitting right next to me. My dad proceeded to grab the back of my son's neck, take a piece of cake and try to shove it in his mouth by force. I grabbed his hand and told him to stop. My son had a busted lip and probably wasn't feeling up to eating. An hour or so later we were able to sit him down to feed him some pizza and cake and he took it willingly. A few days later, I called my dad to discuss. I told him shoving food in my son's mouth makes me very uncomfortable. I don't like it. I have asked him several times to stop and he keeps doing it. He argued with me saying, "How else am I supposed to feed him?" I told him to put the food down in front of my son and he will feed himself. I am also okay with him bringing food to my son's mouth and waiting for my son to take it from him, but if he's turning his head and pushing away, he doesn't want it. My dad went off, saying it's ridiculous that I expect him to feed himself, and he better not come crying to my dad if he's hungry but won't eat. Going on that he doesn't agree with me and he couldn't believe I was calling him about this. I told him I was tired of him being disrespectful to me, and we could agree to disagree, but that he needed to stop. I brought up the fact that my son's mouth was in pain and shoving food into it while it was freshly hurting was absolutely not okay, and that is why I decided to talk to him about it. He then went on to say that I was right there when my son fell and it was my fault for letting him get hurt. It continued to escalate from there to a point he was screaming at me and I couldn't understand what he was saying anymore, so I hung up.